So, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a show which I have long been anticipating. Despite recent, shall we say, digressions on the part of other adaptations of the world, most notably the final season of Game of Thrones and the most recent season of House of the Dragon, which I had a few problems with. Harrenhal was good, though. But suffice to say, I had concerns about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. But from the trailer alone, I think I could tell that there's something a little bit different about this one. Something a bit more. Uh, it's hard to say, really, but I almost wanted to say it seemed more like the stories had been put to screen than being adapted for the screen, if that makes any sense at all. I'm not sure that it does. But anyway, I like to think that I wasn't wrong either. I have previously reviewed A Song of Ice and Fire, the book series, and the Tales of Duncan Egg on this channel back when I had a worse hairstyle, but a more positive outlook on life. So I think it was a fair trade, honestly. But anyway, the point is, I love the Duncan Egg stories. I adore them, and I love Egg, mean little bugger though he is, and I love Sir Duncan the Tall. I adore those stories, and almost more than the main series, the A Song of Ice and Fire series, because at least these stories have endings and good ones, and fairly decent resolution to each story's conflict, and they're generally more positive anyway than A Song of Ice and Fire, more a treat to read about, and generally I think more heartfelt and less gruesome as a whole. The Duncan Egg stories seem to be about hope and positivity and striving to do great things in the world and to be a good person and a good knight and to live up to these fabulous ideals. And the series seems to be no different. Beware of minor spoilers ahead. And one fan theory that is big and popular and might very well be true and might also very well be a big spoiler if true. So, you know, um anyway, right away I'm hooked on the imagery of this show with Dunk, the poor squire, burying his old master, Sir Arlen of Pennytree, and it's this wonderful, heartfelt scene with a bit of humor as well as Dunk sort of looks back on his time serving with the old knight, and it doesn't seem to be downplaying the sorrow of the scene, of Dunk, having to see his basically his father dead. Uh, so I think it works well, the kind of interplay of humor and sadness and fear of what is Dunk gonna do now, right? And it's basically a word for word the beginning of the story. And we see Dunk trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out whether he should like join the city watch of one of the nearby cities, or trying to decide what he needs to do with his life now. And he's this poor kid out of Flea Bottom, right? And he doesn't even have a knight to serve, and it's great stuff. And kudos to Peter Claffey. Is that his name? He's he is more Dunk than I could have possibly imagined. Like, I never gave much thought, honestly, to the way Dunk sounded, even like his accents say. But every word seems to fit for him, and he just plays it so well, and he just embodies that kind-hearted, gentle giant of a character. Dunk, who is just this amazing character anyway. And I will say, in the beginning, there is one scene that I wasn't a huge fan of. I mentioned how when he's burying Sir Arlen, there's a flash of a bit of humor when he refers to uh, you never hit me except when I deserved it or whatever, and it gives you a little montage of every time wee Dunk was struck by the old knight, and it was meant to be humorous, and I don't necessarily think it undercut the emotions of the scene necessarily, but the next instance of that does, which is an unexpected crap. Um, I get what they were going for, but I I think it could have been handled better with more tact, and I don't think it was just the right time for another bout of funny haha poop jokes right out the gate. But I digress. It's a minor thing, and it doesn't take up much of my time. So Dunk goes to become a knight. He's going to take part in the tourney at Ashford Meadow and sort of get himself established, get some money, And there's entirely possible that he loses money. He loses his ability to do anything. Uh, but he doesn't intend to lose the tourney either. So it's kind of a all or nothing situation. But on the way, he stops at the inn where we get to our first look at Egg, dear sweet Egg, who is this adorable child. And I mean, the boy does a really good job here, and you can tell the showrunners have such great respect for George R. R. Martin's writing and respect for their actors as well, because the dialogue and delivery in these scenes is just so good, um and just kind of outstanding throughout. And the first meeting of Duncan Egg is just so, it's just as silly as I imagined, and the kid is mistaken for a stable boy, and they like have this like fun back and forth of banter. It's good. I very much enjoyed that. And we also got a look at Daeron the Drunken, drunk in his cups and in the inn. And it's just a brief scene, but establishes so much. And he seems about perfect, a perfect adaptation of the character. I always kind of imagine like kind of a John Constantine type looking guy, because he's like a scruffy drunkard who's kind of sucks. But this is just as good, and that the show that hasn't even started yet. It starts at the tourney. The tourney, just this amazing spectacle. The Ashford tourney looks wonderful, and in keeping with a bit of a tradition set by House of the Dragon, whereby the showrunners make an effort to portray the medieval folks as they actually were described in the books. Um, as in they're dressing in these brilliant colors, and there's all the pageantry and the sigils and the wild animals, and we run into the Fossaway lads with the apples on their shields, and you've got the jerk and his cousin. I honestly forget their names off the top of my head, but they're really fun. And the cousin who hates the jerk, right? And who will one day become a friend of Sir Duncan the Tall, and we get this scene that I don't believe was in the books. No, I'm certain it wasn't in the books, and frankly, I don't mind. It's an interesting addition, because the Fossaway kid, he invites Duncan to dine with him, to join him, and they go to a feast, and there we get to meet Sir Lionel Baratheon, much earlier, I think, than in the official story. And Sir Lionel is crazy. He's fairly bonkers. But he's more reserved in this than the book, I think, portrayed. Um, he's a bit. I mean, the actor kind of makes up for this sort of change by playing a more, I think, a more well-rounded character. He's more interesting, more thoughtful and jovial, and kind of this introverted extrovert, who takes this random interest in some poor knight who wandered into his feast, and I kind of really like that turn. It's an interesting take on the character. I don't think necessarily even inaccurate, and he plays it well too, and it's well written nevertheless, and it's like all very interesting and all very curious, and I enjoyed the scene very much, and I do have a soft spot for the Baratheons anyway. Like any chance you can get to do stuff, especially with the weirder, more boisterous characters, the better. I say, um, the Baratheons just being so bonkers anyway. Like this as a side note, I will say like the party itself, the feast with Sir Lionel, is really kind of weird for Westeros, especially all these people wrapped up in custom and tradition and all that. Um, because the feast is like it has fighting and dancing and weird acrobatics and a lot of drinking, and but also like it might be weird for Westeros, but is this not exactly the way you'd imagine the Baratheons would party, right? I mean, the Baratheons are nuts. Like leave the costume balls and quiet meals to like the Lannisters and the Tyrells. I mean, obviously the Baratheons are wild and weird and horny and perpetually drunk. Stannis broke the mold with that one. I mean, and he be the only one too, it seems. Anyway, the first episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it speaks to me on so many levels. Every ounce of it is just pure love of the story, or so it seems to me. And on oh so many levels, it's just this appealing, hopeful narrative, and kind of humorous and kind of sweet and kind of sad. And yet there's so much heart to this story, and so much joy and wonder, and I am interested in what is to come. I mean, anyway, Dunk has always been just a perfect protagonist anyway, and you could tell so many stories with him. And he's kind of an answer to like modern day's attempts at like grim, dark, moody, unlikable heroes, But he's still flawed too. It's kind of a masterclass in how to write a main character, And Dunk, speaking of his flaws, he claims to have been knighted by Sir Arlen at on his deathbed, but Dunk might not be telling the truth there. And this is the fan theory that I was talking about. I wasn't expecting. You know, I I I didn't know what to expect when the show started. I didn't know if they were going to address Dunk's lie or not. And and when he was eventually asked if he was a knight, he answered very quickly. He said that he was knighted by Sir Arlen, but I think you could easily tell that there's something more to that story, and I hope that they keep it vague and mysterious somewhat, that they don't just explicitly state it, because watching it, you kind of know. I mean, that there's that flash of indecision, even as he with very much certainty approaches the situation that he means to be a knight, and Dunk is this good person. He's intrinsically honorable and honest, and yet he's given this moment where I think, and many others do as well, that he lies about being knighted. His entire personality, henceforth, being built on this terrible lie that, I mean, Dunk, it will eat at him for a long time. And yet, I think that's the perfect recipe for a near perfect story. And it would take a particular breed of malicious idiocy to mess up this show now. So, for now, I just can't wait to see more. I hope they keep true and they don't veer off from the script too much. I mean, I I don't see them doing that, but you never know. Um, so yeah, like and subscribe and hit the bell while you're at it. I am Connor Landon Freeman, an author of fantasy and horror stories, which you can buy on Amazon, by the way, if you're interested. I am a scholar of all things strange and unusual and kind of nerdy, and I am a reviewer, gamer, and game designer. I'm also the self proclaimed God Emperor of the Nerds, so there's that as well. I hope to see you around, but for now, yeah, bye.